Okay. Hi, my name is Mr. Manzke, and right now this is Geometry Notes. This is Unit 1, Day 1, Page 2, Part 2. I'm going to talk about the term congruent. The symbol that we have here, it's got the equal sign and the tilde symbol above it. Okay, that means congruent. So let me give you an example. So let's say I have the two line segments AB and the CD. Okay, so two shapes that are congruent, they have the same shape, they have the same size. So if I were to draw that, okay, so here's AB. And then draw a second shape. Okay, so if I'm going to draw that, so we're going to draw two line segments. This first one. And let's draw a second one. Now remember, the shape, they're going to have to be identical in length. So, and again, remember when we label the points here, we'll call the first one, this is A, this is B, that's the name of the first line segment. And move this up here. And then this would be C, and that would be D. Okay, so these are two line segments that are the same length and same size. Now, a notation I'm going to put on there, I'll put a little marking here, and I'm going to put another marking, one more, here. Okay, those tick marks are telling the reader, like if there's one tick mark here and one tick mark here, it means that the two line segments are congruent to each other. They're the same shape and the same size. Okay, so that would be an example of congruent. The next term is midpoint. Okay, so if I'm going to illustrate midpoint, what I would do there is I could draw an example. We're going to say M is the midpoint of line segment EF. So let's make that bigger so everyone can see it. Okay. Now EF is going to be a line segment, so we're going to draw a line above there. E and F. Okay, and it just tells the readers that's a line segment. So let's draw a line segment. So we're going to have a line segment, like we're going to have E, so we're in the middle. We're going to have M, and then we're going to have F. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a line. Okay. So here's one endpoint. There's E. M is going to be somewhere in the middle. That's my second point. And then my third point is going to be over here. And I'm going to mark that point there. Okay. So I got 3 points there. Now, if M is the midpoint, okay, obviously midpoint, think of it as like the middle. You're trying to find the middle of the line segment. So then we'll put a little tick mark here. We'll do 2. Remember, it doesn't always have to be 1. But then you're also going to put 2 tick marks over here. And what that means is that the line segment has been cut in half. And then we can make a statement here. This is a conclusion that we can make. We can say that EM, borrow this congruent symbol here, is going to be congruent to MF. And then we're going to underline these here. And one more. Okay. All right, so that's an example of midpoint. Now we got two other words here. The next term is called congruent segments. Now, in my example above here, I'm just going to see if it'll let me do this here. Otherwise, we're going to try something different here. All right, so when we have line segments that are congruent, okay, I know we just basically did the previous example of congruent, but when we talk about congruent segments, we have two segments that are the same shape and same size. Just remember there's no arrows associated to this. Remember, this is a symbol called congruent, and these two are line segments. And then the last term, which is bisect. Okay, if we're going to bisect something, that means we're cutting it in half. So in my example, okay, we talked about the midpoint. I'm just going to borrow this for a moment. You can have shapes, you can have things that can cut a segment in half. So like, for example, I could say, let's draw a line here. It's just to illustrate an example here. So let's suppose we got a line here. Oh, I gotta draw a line, sorry. So let's say we got a line that's being cut in half here. And let's put 2 points on there. So we're going to label this. Call this point here. And call this point down here. Kind of big points here, but that's okay. So over here, we'll call this point H. And let's make this a little bigger so everyone can see it. So we'll say this point here is H. I'll have to extend the line a little bit because it's a little short. And we'll put this point down here, and we'll just put a point over here. We'll call this J. Okay. So let's say we have a line segment that's being cut in half by a line JK. So we could say sorry, folks. So in our notation, we could say HJ bisects EF. Now, if I were to do the notation for that, okay, so remember HJ is a line. Okay, and then EF is a line segment. Now, when you're noting the line segment, remember we have to have there. So in our picture here, okay, so there's our line cutting the line segment in half. Okay, so this is the notation. So the line is going to have arrows. The line segment does not. All right, that concludes the notes for page 2.